So I'm building a new environment for an upcoming trade, and I wanted to discuss today the overall process of how to make it as painless and convenient as possible. So first thing first, of course, I set up the machines on my DNS server, and to conserve some efforts, what I did, I installed the DNS server on the very machine that we use in order to access to the environment. We call this machine an access VM for good reasons, because this is a VM which you use to access the environment. Why do you need that instead of using your own PC? Well, users or students, when they connect to the environment, they need to have a uniform experience. And I want to take out the differences between people's laptops and computers, because someone might use Mac, someone might use PC, some people use different Windows versions. Some of the applications require Java, which not everybody have, or not all versions are compatible, or Flash, or browsers and preferences and security preferences of every person. They're so different. So what it means that if I launch people and when I launch a training and people would be using the training, they would have different experiences which I would have to fix for them, because they wouldn't be able to navigate inside all of this mess. So in order to do that, we have a uniform access VM. This is the VM where they log in, and the only thing that difference between people is their RDP client, which sometimes requires some fixing, but at least there's just one thing. And once they are inside, the experience is predictable. So I provide some of the software for example, Notepad++ or Remote-ng to access the VMs. And the browser versions are compatible, the Java versions are compatible. This is a place where I can put all of the files. So uh, this time I also installed the DNS server on top of the Access VM. And previously I had DNS servers as a separate entity, but that was another 4 GB of RAM from a limited hardware resource that I have. And boy, do I have a limited hardware resource, only 144 GB of RAM. So it means that I need to set up all of the OpsBridge Suite machines on the minimal settings as possible. Luckily for me, I don't need the environment to be stable. I'm going to teach people how to install and integrate the software, and if it collapses on itself due to incompatibility with proper requirements in about 1 to 5 days, I don't generally care, because we are here to learn about stuff and not to run productions and businesses on this kind of setup. So I set up my DNS records, all of them under itom.com, and now I need to address the machines. So first thing first, I already renamed some of the machines in the vCenter, but my resources are not defined properly. So I'm going to modify all of the templates according to what I need. So for example, this machine can use, let's say, 2 GB, and it can use only one CPU. I don't know, and let's use two CPUs. This doesn't really matter. It's not real CPUs or anything. Now this one is going to be for Kubernetes environments, so we're gonna give it a little bit more. So it's going to have 16 GB of memory, and it's going to have, let's say, 10 CPUs. Now, CPUs are not important, because CPUs in terms of VMware or virtualization, even if you don't have enough of those CPUs in the pool, it's just a matter of prioritization, right? So the ones that has more CPUs would get more CPU time from the host, so we don't care. All right, so this machine is going to be also working on minimal, well, not, you know what, not on minimal settings. It's actually going to be a little bit more demanding than that. Then we'll go to this machine, and let's see if its settings are already modified. 10 GB. No, that's just too much. 4 GB. That's all it gets. And two CPUs. That's going to be enough. This machine, and we'll edit it as well. So as you see, the process is pretty simple. Yeah, 4 CPUs. Um, Yeah, two CPUs should be enough. I hope it's enough. Then we go to this Windows machine, we edit its settings, and we also set it up to be 4 GB of RAM and two CPUs. So very minimalistic. Those machines are going to be underpowered. But other than that, it's all going to be fine. Now, let's edit settings for the worker. This one is going to be huge. This one, 32 gigabytes and 10 CPUs, more or less. I hope this is going to be enough. Oh, that's Kubernetes for you. Now, before I do any other changes, I'm going to take snapshots. And this is very important because incremental snapshots allows me to go back and forth and modify several settings at a time, and also allow me kind of undo option on my work. Sometimes redoing something from the snapshot is easier than actually undoing your work manually and then trying again. Basically, you lose all of the garbage that might have been accumulating otherwise, or it's just faster. So I'm going to be creating snapshots called resources changed, because why not? And now we're going to take the snapshots. And those are VMs based on a template that I created. And since I'm the one to create the template, I also know what's up with them. And what I like to do, I like to take the simplest, the most basic OS version that I can find. And this OS version would be used for the template, which means that whatever requirements there are, whatever dependencies we might encounter, uh, those are not going to be the fault of the specific VM, because it doesn't accumulate any weird history. And also it means that this is a vanilla experience. So if I, for example, if I go to support and I tell them, guys, this thing doesn't work, what they can do, they cannot do a thing because I'm using a close experience to a real user. They cannot, and I used to work in support for a decade, and I understand it completely. When your customer kind of changes stuff and expects things to work, well, yeah, naturally they wouldn't, and then you need to address all of those changes. But if someone would come to me and say, what, when I installed my Windows or Linux, I just clicked next, 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 and done, and that's my OS. I know that I don't need to fix the OS itself. I need to address the product. So this is the kind of experience that I'm trying to make. So now all those machines, because they are based on a template, they share the IP address between themselves, and it means that they're going to have an IP address conflict, which is completely fine with me. I don't really mind. And I'm going to access them from the console individually. And just because it's a little bit easier like this. I could power them up one by one on the unique IP that the template has and change the template and reset the machine, but it's much faster to access it like this. So it's going to be a root user, it's going to be a root password. Okay, and that's login incorrect. I wonder why. Let's try that again. Sometimes the typing in console is not ideal. All right, and I think I know what's up. So it's going to be root, and it's going to be completely different password. Yes. So we need to change the password. It's going to be this new password that I intended it to have in the beginning. Update it successfully, and then we're going to do nm2e. Okay, and we're gonna say edit a connection, edit this one specific connection, and I'm gonna say, okay, so this is the machine is going to be called AOS. So AOS is going to be 20. IP is going to be 20. So I'm going to change that. I'm going to change the DNS address because I modified it as well. And I'm going to save it. And last thing to do is to go and change the host name. So the host name is going to be aos.itom.com. All right. So this is how you do it. And now let's say quit. And we are going to say system CTL status firewall. Okay, it's running. So it's going to be system CTL stop firewall D, and then it's going to be disable firewall D. Why? Because I want to have a machine that doesn't block itself. I'm going to install some products on it, some enterprise level software, and this software is very sensitive to firewall rules. Now, it's completely fine to have firewall rules when you control them, but not when the environment is intended for students that meet the products for the first time. First, they need to learn the products, and then they need to incorporate security knowledge into it. So this machine is pretty much ready. I'm going to reboot it in order to see if it holds the settings that I want. And I'm going to exit the console because I'm going to do the check only as a last resort, so somewhere down the road. Second machine is going to be Windows. So we're just sampling this for this video. We're not going to do all of them. We're just going to do a couple of them, and then I'm going to hit the recording on pause. And I'll continue modifying the VMs one by one. But this is how you prepare the environment. So basically, now I'm setting up the prerequisites one way or another. And then once the prerequisites are done, I'm going to save a snapshot of all of them, and that's going to be the first initial version of the machine that the students are going to use. This is very, very, very important. So they would have an experience of getting to the environment for the first time right after the installation. No history, no nothing on the machine. So whatever happens, whatever preparations they're going to make for the enterprise software, it's going to be as clean as possible. Right? So let me disable IPv6, double click on this machine, and this machine is SiteScope. So SiteScope is going to be, oh, we don't have a SiteScope, so let's create a SiteScope. SiteScope, and it's going to be 21. Do we have a 21? No, we don't. So 21 it is. Add host. All right, so let's change that to 21. Default gateway, very good. And then we're gonna change the DNS name itself, the DNS address to 1. Save it. And this is the beautiful part of having the console the console in vCenter rather than connecting to it directly in order to change the settings. I don't get to be disconnected because of some modifications that I made. No internet access, whatever it means. Why it doesn't have internet access? Open network sharing center. Probably it doesn't have an internet access because reasons. Oh, come on. Let's see what happened. And the reason is my DNS server is not configured to do DNS redirections to the outside world. And I'm going to fix this on the Access VM level. So in the meanwhile, I have two things to do. One of them is firewall. Let's see how it goes. And the other thing is going to be system settings, because I need to change the host name. Now here's another important thing. Many people, when they configure their Windows servers, for some reason they think that it should be a part of the domain. Not true. Domains are for maintenance of a system-wide changes or security. And it doesn't have any value for you if you just have a set of machines that just need to communicate one with another, right? So instead of that, all you need to do is computer name and a suffix, and that's about it. That's all you need to do. So computer name is going to be SiteScope. And did I write it correctly? Yes. Then you click on more, and it's going to be itom.com. right? And that's enough, full computer name, that's enough for DNS communication both ways. There is no need to go beyond that. It's completely fine. But what you gain by that is your machine never loses connection to the domain. The cloning of those environments and machines or operations would not disconnect you from the domain and require you to do hoops in the air in order to connect back. Okay, and that happens. Testing environments, non-production environments are prone to this kind of change, and it's kind of risky. So domains are a big no-no unless you know why specifically you need a domain. If you need the machines just to communicate one with another, domain is not the way to go. It would solve the problem, of course. It would get the results, but all you need to do is set up the suffixes properly, and that's about it. All right, so now it's time to uh, restart. Let's restart this VM as well. Continue. Yes. And that's it. This is how you prepare machines. Of course, immediately after the restart, if I see that the settings held and everything looks legitimate to me, I'm going to power down the machines and I'm going to save a snapshot. I never take a live snapshot, never in this green operating state. Why? Because I want to be in control of the machine and when it starts, what it's doing when I'm starting. Maybe I need to change a setting. So why would I power up in a machine in a working state just in order to power it down? I prefer to restore the snapshot to a powered off state and then power on the machine and do my changes if so, I require to do so, but definitely never in the live state. Especially on enterprise level products, because those are very sensitive to how the machine was started and how the machine was stopped. And when you take a snapshot of a live VM, basically what it's doing, it's copying it to the side and kind of, sort of, maybe creating a snapshot of the machine in a working state. But when you power it up, it actually goes from the very powered off state into powered on state, and you hope that the software would work. This is not the way to do it. Try to avoid taking the snapshots in powered on state because those generally suck and bring very little value to machines with uh, standalone enterprise level software. All right, I think that kind of wraps it up for this specific subject, and I'll see you in the next one. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button.